Oakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell as we welcome into you this Friday. Every Friday we do the same thing. It's a football preview show. Final week of the regular season. It is here. The weather wouldn't let you know it. It's a beautiful middle October day after a couple of days in a row of some colder weather. The Storm Tracker 21 app has the kickoff temperature today at 65 degrees, Ty. Woo!
Nice football weather is what I consider that. Throw a nice hoodie on, you'll be set for tonight.
I feel like those little mice in the Muppets Christmas Carol. Heat wave. This is our island in the sun. Wait. When they're trying to beg for more heat, and Scrooge like, how would you guys like to be unemployed? And all of a sudden they're warm. That's what I feel like. It's Friday. Football Friday is here, and we have a lot to talk about. But first, Ty, real quick, we're going to go over the scores, the tournament scores from last night. Tournament very important, and a lot of great results. Sectional finals are done, and all the district semifinals in volleyball have been secured. Let's go over the scoreboard. Head over to ysnlive.com and hit the scoreboards tab on the menu to get all the scores from the evening. But we'll start with Girard. They get the sweep over Niles, the third straight sweep over the Dragons in the season as Girard moves on. Canfield gets the 3-1 win over Perry. They're in the district semifinals for the Cardinals. Crestview gets the sweep over Waterloo, and Abby Emch breaks the record in the Crestview program for most kills in a season. Congratulations to her. South Range sweeps LeBray pretty emphatically to punch their ticket into the district semifinal. Southern and Springfield duke it out. It was probably the most competitive match of the night. Southern Local escapes in 5, 3-2. The matchup between the 6-seeded Indians and the 7-seeded Tigers plays out the way the numbers would expect. Wellsville gets the sweep over St. Thomas Aquinas to move on to their district semifinal. Aurora knocks out Howland 3-0 in a sweep. We knew that Aurora team was going to be something to be contended with in that Division II bracket, moving down from Division I, and they definitely flexed their muscles against the Tigers. Orange fell to Copley 3-0, so that's the end of the Orange season. Congratulations to the Lions on a great volleyball year. Lakeview swept Poland for the third time this season as they win 3-0 and notch a district semifinal with Crestview. You know what that's going to mean. In Grand Valley, it's going to be a great one between the number 9 team in the state and the number 8 team in the state and number 9 team in the state in Crestview and Lakeview. Western Reserve sweeps Wyndham 3-0. And then a surprising one is Sebring knocks down Jackson Milton in the Blue Jays gym 3-0. A sweep for the Trojans, the 12-seeded Sebring into the district semifinal.
How about Sebring on that too? And I mean, hey, that's what you love. That's why you got to play the games, right? That's why you play all 3 sets. That's why you show up to the gyms, because anything could happen. And hats off to the Trojans. Big win too. And hey, upset Cinderella stories are meant to happen every time or every year, it feels like. Why not Sebring this year?
Blake Thomas had a great day, 8 kills, 5 aces for her.
She's something else, man. I mean, she plays all over. She's on the football team as well, too, over there. She's on the football team. She plays volleyball, and then
you don't like cross country too.
Yeah, like I mean, she does everything over there. She's like a super athlete.
Oh man, that's great. Fantastic for Sebring to get that win. Everyone in that program is so excited to be in the district semifinal. They'll play Wellsville on next Tuesday. Whitcliffe and South Range on the boys soccer scene as Whitcliffe wins 7-2 to knock out the Raiders and end their season. Garfield ends their season with a 3-0 loss to Crestwood. Cardinal Mooney has no problem with Conneaut, 10-1 win. JFK advances with a 7-3 win over Liberty. Hats off to Liberty. First year as a program for the boys soccer team, and they actually did pretty well. Won a tournament game, had a very good record for not first ever year, but they were gone for a while and then came back as a program. I forget the last year Liberty had a boys soccer program, but it was quite a bit ago. So they are back and they had a good season. So congratulations to the Leopards. Badger gets the 12-0 win over Pymatuning Valley. Champion wins over Middle Ridge 7-0. And then Crestview wins 4-1 over Steubenville Central Catholic. Two girls soccer playoff games last night is not NDCL knocked off Louisville 1-0 in a really good game. And Howland advances over Hoover 4-0. So those are your tournament scores from last night as volleyball, girls soccer, and boys soccer are still pushing through their postseason. I apologize, I misspoke. One more round of sectional finals to go on Saturday. There will be sectional finals tomorrow. That will be the bottom half of all your district brackets. They played on Wednesday, so they'll play their sectional finals on Saturday, which means the district finals next week, or semifinals next week, are Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the championships will be Thursday and Saturday as well.
If you're a high school sports connoisseur like Anthony and myself, then this is like perfect news for you, because that means there is quite literally just something going on. High impact football going on Fridays too. This is week 10. This is playoff live or die this week, and then next week starts the playoffs then, and we already have high impact games on the soccer and volleyball realms as well, because every one of these games are big moving forward. I'm really interested to see, before we get into our football scores too, that Crestview Lakeview matchup. It's going to be interesting. First time
in Grand Valley, and then if Saturday goes the way that the numbers say in Grand Valley, the nightcap of that day will be Kirtland against Middle Ridge, which is another state-ranked versus state-ranked matchup as well. So Grand Valley next Wednesday could be the place to be.
Going to be a party. It's going to be a party. 3 YSN schools and a chance for 2 of them to be in the next round.
Right. And, you got Middle Ridge has to take care of Saturday. So we'll just pump the brakes there. But if the numbers go the way we expect them to, then it'll be Middle Ridge, Kirtland, Crestview, Lakeview in the district semifinals, which are once again 4 state-ranked teams, and only one can advance to the regional. So we'll start with the football scores, and before we do, in case you haven't heard, this news broke yesterday, we'll say it again. On Saturday, the Valley Christian against East Palestine football game has been canceled, so that game is not happening. Outside of that,
and that's kind of a big game too for Valley, considering that Valley is right now sitting at 3 in Region 21, and they need this game because Dalton is right there underneath them. Brookfield can still jump them. Like, Valley with a loss, they said, could be their possible seed range is 3 to 4 right now, but with a loss, if they don't get a game, and very possible you could see them get jumped in. For the Eagles, they definitely don't want a case of that, but it's a difficult situation.
It is, because look, we talked about this with Crestview, and Crestview is on the fence.
Yeah,
so
there are similar situations.
Missing that game for Crestview was really big as far as getting into the playoffs. Valley Christian isn't worrying about getting into the playoffs, but they are worried about their seeding and their spot in the playoffs. And matchups are important. If you host is important, and they are on that brink of hosting 2 games versus 1. So hosting is important, and who you match up with is important as well. So they just want to get the best seed as possible, and with missing a game, it's tough to do that. Now, the positive side for Valley Christian, because their regular season
they were 9
is now over, they can officially say for the first time in school history they have an undefeated regular season.
They do,
and I mean that officially. Of course, no one wants that to happen with 9 games. It kind of, I'm sure, in their eyes, it kind of takes a damper away from it a little bit. They weren't able to play the full 10, but they can still say for the first time in that program's history, they have an undefeated regular season.
So what's interesting too is because the way I'm looking at it, according to Joe Itel, the only possible seed ranges for Valley, they can only drop one technically, and that is because of the teams that they've beaten. So if the teams that they've beaten can win this week, they can get 18.833 points, put them right at that 3 range, possibly too. But the lowest they can get is 18.2778 because they're not playing a game this week too. So for Valley, they can drop, and then that's kind of sucks for the Eagles that you can drop without it being in your control. But on the bright side, it looks like it can only be a spot. So Valley, on the more important side, can only drop, it looks like, to the 4 seed, which means they will still host the first 2 playoff games in the at home in Valley.
Yep. And then you would look at, like, all right, who do they play for the 3 seed compared to who do they play for the 4 seed? And like I said, sometimes matchups matter too. Like who you match up with can be a big factor. But let's go into the Friday football games. This is going to be in order of our schedule. Once again, no particular order except for the order they're put in. And this game starting a little bit early at 6 o'clock. It is Wyndham hosting North Baltimore. As Wyndham projected to be a playoff team by Joe Itel, and they have one more game to take care of. It's been a tumultuous season for the Bombers. They had to miss one game, not because of COVID, but just because of trying to get players healthy and roster size. But they were able to bounce back, get a couple of really big wins throughout the final stretch of the season, and they're in position to put themselves in the playoffs. They'll play North Baltimore tonight at 6 o'clock. I think you muted yourself.
Looking at it right now, too, Wyndham is sitting at 15th. But yeah, you're right, and a loss can put them out of the playoffs. A win could technically put them out, but a win can put them as high as the 13th seed. A loss can keep them at the 15th seed, depending on what teams do around them. Right. It's a big game, though, for the Bombers, considering that they want to get back to the playoffs. They just missed it last year, and it was because injuries kind of derailed them last year. Well, this year they kind of had the injury bug early, but they got healthy, and they've gotten themselves some wins in the last couple of weeks. That win against Fairport turned out to be a big one. North Baltimore, only a 2-7 team on the year, and they're down in Region 26. So a chance really for the Bombers to get themselves back into the playoffs.
The school will have that one, and you can catch it on ysnlive.com/live. 6 o'clock kickoff for this one, so adjust your schedules accordingly if you're planning on watching North Baltimore at Wyndham. We go to the next one. Boardman travels to Canfield. They make the road down to 224 as both teams in their regular season with a quote-unquote conference rival, even though there's no AAC in football.
And Boardman right now is 17 on the outside looking in. They need this win. The Boardman's only path to the playoffs goes through Canfield. Well, right. Technically, a loss could put them at 16, but the path would need both.
They need help, right? This
South
is like
would need to lose. Shaker Heights would need to lose. Harding would need to lose. I mean, a lot of teams, which Harding plays Fitch, so I mean, there's possibility in some of those, but a lot of other teams need to lose. Boardman's best path, though, to the playoffs is a win tonight. And I tell you what, seeing this Spartans team last week against Fitch, Tomas Andujar, solid quarterback, man, and he was game managing really well against the Falcons. And this is a Boardman team that I think can give Canfield some fits. I really do. I think they can give them some fits with their running. I think they have a good offensive line. I think the battles in the trenches are going to be interesting in tonight's matchup, considering how good Canfield's line is as well. Brock Lowry is obviously the X factor for the Cardinals, and that's what gives them the advantage. They're also 7-1 on the year, but I wouldn't count out the Spartans. I think they're going to have a lot of fight, and these two teams, they'll meet each other in the basketball seasons. They'll meet each other in the baseball seasons. They'll get very familiar with each other. They want some bragging rights heading into those seasons when it is conference play.
Yeah, I feel like in week 10, we're like one of those NFL playoff shows at the end of the season where we're like, here's the scenario. If they win, they're in. If they lose, they need some help. That's kind of where Boardman's at. And that is why that game against Warren Harding hurts so much. Because if they won that game against Warren Harding, then they probably wouldn't be in the position where they needed to win against either Dover, Fitch, or Canfield in that final 3 games of the season.
So here's the interesting situation, too. Because Chardon plays Akron North, which is only a 1-8 opponent, Division II, same division as Boardman, as Canfield's opponent. but Canfield still has a chance to walk away number 1 seed in Division 3 Region 9. They're the only team that can take number 1 from Chardon, and they can only do it with a victory. With a loss, they can stay at the 2 seed, but they can drop as low as the 5 seed, which would put them out of hosting that second round.
So basically, what you're saying is, don't think the Canfield Cardinals are going to pack it in and say,
no,
okay,
this is not. This is not like a whatever game, a game that you can glance over. This is very much a game that can mean a lot for the Cardinals. They can take number 1 seed and pretty much avoid Chardon until the regional final.
This isn't that Week 17 game where you start your backups and you rest your starters for playoffs. That's not happening for Canfield. They'll be very motivated to beat Boardman, even if there weren't playoff spots on the line. I think just they'd get up for Boardman. I don't think effort or focus is going to be an issue for the Cardinals when you're playing an area rival and really a conference rival. Like I said,
I mean, these two teams,
every other sport.
They're about 15 minutes away from each other. These kids know each other. They play in all kinds of sports with each other. So bragging rights on the line on top of all of it.
All right, we continue down the list. Champion will travel. By the way, Richie Giuliano will be the call on Canfield. Can't forget about giving Richie a shout out. Champion will be at Brookfield. Matt Morrison and John will be on the call for this one. 7 o'clock kickoff for this one. Brookfield has just been keeping on since week 1.
And yeah, they have. And for Champion, this is their only path to the playoffs, is if they can beat the team that walked away conference champions last week, the conference champions. And it's still a big game for Brookfield as well. There is no path to the playoffs for Champion with a loss today. So they need this win. But luckily for them, because of how the schedule shakes out and the opponent they have, yeah, it's kind of a tough opponent. You got to beat the conference champs. But because you have this game at the end of the season, it still gives you a path to the playoffs.
Champions are a hard team to figure out because we've seen them look good enough to beat Brookfield, but we've also seen them look, not so good. They've been very inconsistent this year. So this is a game where you can't say for sure that it's going to be a Brookfield blowout, but at the same time, it's possible. But if the right Champion team shows up, if Joey Fell is on and confident, and if players like Nick Vesey, if they can get him going, then the Flashes can really compete in this game. It just depends on, like I said, which team shows up, and that's been the bugaboo for the Flashes all season long.
It has been. So I mean, it's the last chance for Champion to get a final push into the playoffs.
And we know they have great competitors down there. They're going to give it their all against Brookfield. I think it'll be one of the games that may be surprisingly competitive, if not for the whole game, then at least a couple quarters or into the fourth. We go to the next one. It's a Youngstown rivalry. Again, East will travel to Cheney. Alec Caberna will be on the call, 7 o'clock kickoff here.
And for Cheney, yeah, they're looking to get wins as well. This is a case, too. Pretty interesting because it says on Joe Itel, with a win or a loss, Cheney's range in the playoffs is 2 to the 6th seed. But you got to figure a win would definitely take care of a lot more business of getting them a top 4 seed. And that's ultimately what the Cowboys are looking to get. So still not going to take it easy. And these are, again, 2 schools that are not too far from each other. East side, west side, going to be a fun battle at Rain.
That's what I like about this high school football setup because like I said, if you were just locked into a spot by this point, there'd be a lot of conversations in games like this where, okay, but Cheney's not really going to really try to do much of anything because they're already locked into a spot. But even the teams that are locked into a playoffs, there is always wiggle room for your seeding. So you're never locked into your spot, and you want to make sure you get the best seed possible.
Yeah.
So every Week 10 game, even for the teams that are sitting at top of the division, top of the region, they all have kind of meaning to what they're doing. So you're never going to get, at least I hope not, you're never going to get one of those teams that just says, hey, let's just, play maybe a half for our starters, get them out of the game, and then just, pack up and get ready for the playoffs because there's just too much on the line for everybody, even the top teams in the region.
Cheney wants that top 4 seed. They want to bring teams to Rain Stadium too. They want to bring them to that beautiful field. And for East, I mean, this is a situation where you're playing for your seniors. You're trying to get them one more win. And for the guys coming back next year, hey, this is where we start our culture. We want to be playing these playoff games on this field. So we can start right now beating our West Side rivals.
this is a pride game for East, in my opinion. Like, let's show some fight. Even if we don't come out on top, let's make sure that we're not the team that rolls over and makes this a game that is easy for the Cowboys.
No doubt. We've seen, I mean, any week, any given Friday.
440 and goal guys have the Battle for the Bridge. That's a really cool name for a rivalry. Edgewood and Lakeside, not Lakeview, sorry, Edgewood and Lakeside battling it out in Ashtabula County, 7 o'clock kickoff. Battle for the Bridge. That just sounds like a World War II big strategic fight. You know, you got to take this bridge to make sure that the opponent can't cross it into your territory.
And looking at it, 1 second. $15. They took the numbers off Joe Itel, so it's a little bit harder to see where these teams are currently sitting. But Edgewood is 15 in Region 13, Division 4. So this is a case where they say they control their own destiny on Joe Itel. And what's interesting, how about this range? With a win for Edgewood, their range for the playoffs is where they're at right now, 15, but as high as 6 to 15. Edgewood can jump.
Because they're playing a very good Division 2 team.
They can
get a lot of points for beating the Dragons.
But with a loss, they can still make the playoffs. They can actually jump to as high as number 11, but they can also fall out of the playoffs. So haven't clinched a playoff spot yet. And for Lakeside, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, over in Region 5, it's a very similar situation. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. Yeah. They're 15 as well. Both teams are ranked 15 in their respective regions. 13 for Edgewood, 5 for Lakeside. And Lakeside, with a win, can get as high as number 7. With a loss, can go to as high as number 12. But in both scenarios, with a win or a loss, Lakeside could be out of the playoffs.
And remember, Lakeside, which this is crazy to think about, but after I think week 3, when they went into that game against Geneva, they were the top-ranked team in the region. They were sitting at number 1 because they had such a hard non-conference schedule, and they got through it undefeated. Then they lost to Geneva, and some of their schedule kind of got a little bit rocky after that. But Lakeside, they still had, like you said, they still have a chance to get all the way up to 7.
It's a battle for the bridge, and unfortunately, one team might not be able to cross it over to the playoffs if they lose this game. So it's Warriors and Dragons tonight, and Ashtabula is going to be bumping, and 440 and goal is a perfect party to turn it up. They're the perfect.
A great wordplay. It's what he brings to the table. Wow. Jefferson will be at Lakeview tonight. Jefferson never saying die. They're not letting a couple losses that they've had this season turn into more. They got a big win over Poland last week, the first time they've ever beaten Poland as a football program. And they're coming off, like I said, that momentum win. They will travel to Lakeview to end the season. Jefferson, I believe, sitting at 6 in Division 4.
And honestly, you look at what Jefferson has done. I've absolutely loved it. Wins against Hubbard, wins against Niles, wins against Poland this year. 3 very solid wins. They were competitive against Girard. Took ones on the chin against Struthers and South Range, but that Struthers team's been red hot in South Range and South Range. But those 3 wins against quality teams too, both Hubbard and Poland in position to make the playoffs as well. Niles, when they're healthy, is a solid team as well. Never a pushover team are the Red Dragons. And I love it because when we talked with Coach Hanna before the season, and this is exactly what he talked about. He said we wanted to go in, want to be competitive with the NEA. We want to show them that what we bring up here in Ashtabula County, what we bring over here in Jefferson area, the kind of football can compete with that kind of conference. And they've shown that. That was a big win against Poland, like you said, on senior night too. So a lot of energy running through Poland.
Yeah, they spoiled Poland senior night. I mean, we talk a lot about the energy that gives the team that is doing senior night. We don't always talk about trying to be the team on the opposite side that has to fight that emotion and fight the team that is going out playing for their seniors. Not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do. Jefferson was able to do it last week and spoil Poland senior night with a win.
You are right.
They are trying to end the regular season with a win tonight against Lakeview. I think they're 6 tie. What's the highest they could get?
They can get as high as number 2 with a win or a loss, but they could fall as low as number 10 with a win or 14 with a loss. So a big window for Jefferson. But the important part is they have clinched a playoff spot. But if you win tonight, you could host as many as 2 playoff games, and that's going to be big for the Falcons.
But you could win tonight and still not host any. If it were to play out.
So it's a flip of a coin. Jefferson certainly hopes that they could host because it's a long travel for a lot of these teams too. So not easy traveling for most of these teams in Region 13. So they would have to they'd have to make that trek up to Jefferson area.
So Jefferson is going to try to get a win and then be doing a lot of scoreboard watching for the rest of the day. Hopefully they're using ysnlive.com to scoreboard watch our new scoreboard that has been in the fold for the last 3 weeks. They can go over to that and check out all the scores of their region to see where they'll be placed in Division 4. The next game on the slate, 7 o'clock kickoff, Brian O'Ridge will be on the call. It is LeBray at Campbell Memorial. Both teams a little bit of a struggle season, and both teams trying to get a win to end it and to carry some momentum forward into the program.
Yeah, for both of these teams too. I mean, LeBray, like you said, they're mathematically eliminated. For Camel too, they've gotten a couple wins on the season, and I mean, in those couple games, they've looked competitive as well. But this is going to be an interesting game for Camel. They're also eliminated, but it's a game for pride. It's a game where you're trying to build on the next season. It's a game where, like you said, you're trying to win for your seniors. For LeBray, they're trying to go out with a win, right? You want to go out with at least a win, have that win on the season to end it. And for Camel too, a 3-7 season, not a bad season for a foundational season for coach over there to build on. And with the younger guys coming back, start with them. Say, let's go out, let's get this win too. 3-7, we can build off of that going into next year, and a lot of returning talent over there in Camel.
Camel showed me a lot when they were able to beat Champion, because let's just be real, the start of their MVAC season, it felt like every time they played a team, it was a team coming off of a loss or a game where they didn't play that well, and they were just very mad, very frustrated, and they had no mercy on Camel. They have a lot of games like that. So that could be demoralizing for a team to go through. I mean, you're getting just stomped every week, and Camel never gave up the process, kept working like the coach says to, and they came out and they beat Champion 21-14. That was a big upset, and it might keep Champion out of the playoffs, to be honest.
It very well could, and that's the role you play too. When you're mathematically eliminated from it, you want to play spoiler. You want to try to take everybody else out of it. It's a case where both teams are mathematically eliminated, but you're still playing for pride, and you're most importantly playing for a win. You don't want to have that goose egg on the season if you're LeBray, and for Camel, you'd love to have that third win of the season, because 3-7 is a good foundation to build off of for the younger guys.
So we'll see. I think Camel's just a little bit in a better spot right now. We'll see as we go into that game at 7 o'clock. It is time for our first break on Running Point, as we have a lot of more games to talk about on the other end of the break, but we got to pay some bills, keep the lights running, and we'll be right back on Running Point. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring golf instruction by PGA professionals, a state-of-the-art practice range, a PGA of America recognized pro shop, kids programs, and a relaxing grill room for a memorable golf experience. For more information or to schedule a tee time, visit millcreekmetroparks.org.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Going from mindful to mindful sometimes requires a helping, healing hand. Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness offers a continuum of mental health and wellness care. At Insight, we're changing the way you receive counseling and wellness services with experienced licensed clinicians and expertly trained wellness staff. With 4 locations in Mahoning and Columbiana County, along with telehealth services, Insight offers clients quick access to care when they need it. Transform your mental health and wellness at Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig and Ty Bartell is my sidecar as we continue this Friday football preview, the last week of the regular season. It is week 10, as we will be in playoffs next week for football. And we are already in playoffs, tournament time, whatever you want to call it, for every other sport, as we talked about the last round of sectionals for volleyball this Saturday. But back to football as we go next. The last game we talked about, Ty, was La Brea at Campbell Memorial. Once again, Brian Outridge will be on the call, 7 o'clock kickoff there. And we move on to this one, which is going to be Liberty at Garfield. Ty, 4 games into the season, you look at this game in week 10, and you probably think Snorefest, Garfield by a million. But Liberty has found some kind of spark in the last half of the season. They look like a completely different team. And Garfield's coming off a pretty tough loss to Brookfield in week 9. Maybe a little bit more interesting than people thought it would be, especially after the first 4 weeks of the season.
Important to note, Liberty, another one of those cases where they're going to be a 9-game football team in the regular season because they missed week 5. But that week 5 game that they missed, it's also the one that Crestview's missing on their season, to mind you. But that week 5 game that they missed with Crestview because of sickness concerns and everything, that was like the reset button, because you look at it, 4 losses, the missing game, 4 wins. Like, it's like they hit the reset button. I don't know if they went in to the video game sliders and adjusted all of them for the Liberty guys and put them all up, but it seems like the game reset. And we're dealing with a different Leopards team. They came out of the gate swinging. After that, they took a week to compose themselves. And those 4 wins have them sitting right at the 16 seed. With a loss, they can still be the 16 seed, but they can also be out of the playoffs. With a win, they could be as high as number 11, but they could also still be out of the playoffs. Actually, right now, Anthony, there is a total of 11 teams that are fighting for
I thought you froze there for a second because of that dramatic pause. I was like, uh-oh.
There's 11 teams fighting for 6 playoff spots right now in that region. And Liberty is one of them. They're sitting at 16, and they're trying to hold on for dear life. Similar situation as last year, where they were right on the cusp of making the playoffs, like you said, Ant. But for the Leopards, they need this win. A loss can still put them in the playoffs, but they would need some help. It's going to be interesting. We're going to be scoreboard watching this one a ton as well. We're going to look at it for those scores, but we're also going to look at Joe Itel to see how those computer points rank up.
Liberty's like that kid you're playing on Madden online that rage quits and then comes back an hour later with the sliders turned up. It's like, where did this team come from?
The receivers are like Cunningham's now like 6'6". He's like 6'6". He grows like 4 inches. His speed's 99.
Man, I swear when I lined up against this kid last year, he was 6'2". Now he's 6'6". What happened?
They adjusted the sliders. No, Liberty and
in all honesty, Liberty just I think they I've always been a fan of Coach Timon. I think they've kind of bought into his philosophy and they kind of I do think they hit the reset button. They had a lot of injuries and a lot of they're playing with some players they didn't expect not to play with, and the first 4 games were just kind of a lull. And I think as unfortunate as that missed game was for sickness, they probably took it as an advantage to come together, not really, but come together virtually, probably because of their COVID outbreak, come together virtually and just kind of have that come to Jesus moment, for lack of better words. Hey, like, we can either sit and mope on our circumstance, or we can just go and trust the process and go get some results. And they've definitely done that the last 4 weeks.
The thing for Liberty, if they lose, what you kind of are hoping for then are the teams that you've beaten all get wins. And the teams that they have wins against, Camel, that has a situation where they can get a win. They definitely can. Champion's going to be the questionable one against Brookfield. Newton Falls tonight has Crestview. That could be a toss-up game. That's a coin toss game. And then, of course, LeBray. So that LeBray Camel one is going to be one way.
Whoever wins, that's the good thing. Like,
that's going to help them out too. So, I mean, you're really rooting.
But I feel like Camel winning would give them more points, right? Because it'd be their 3rd win.
Yeah. Champion winning would give them probably if Champion gets a win against Brookfield too, and then they own a win against Champion, that's big for Liberty then at the end of the season. It's all going to be crazy. We're going to be looking at all the scores, and we're going to be seeing who's going to be playing next week, because we're quite literally going to find out tonight.
And let's talk about Garfield's side real quick, because they are coming off that tough loss against Brookfield where the MVAC was on the line. I mean, I wonder how they kind of mentally respond from that, because, a lot of expectation and a lot of hype into that game, and obviously they won it really bad, and Brookfield kind of ran away with it. So how do they kind of mentally come back from that? Will be interesting to see.
As right now, Garfield, you got to figure the way you got to motivate these kids, and for Coach Moser going into this, he's got to be talking first and foremost about where they're positioning, how much a win means for them next week, because they're currently sitting at the 10th spot. A win can put them in the ranges of 5 to 11, but a good chance of hosting at least a playoff game next week. And I think that's the thing you want to talk about. We're going to be playing next week. We're guaranteed already have clinched our playoff spot, but where do you want to be playing next week? Do you want to be playing here, or do you want to be hitting the road, going on the road to do it? Because you have a choice right now.
Yeah, and like we said, matchups matter. Who you match up with matters, and hosting matters too. So still a lot to play for, even though they're locked into a playoff spot for Garfield. And I think they don't want to go into the playoffs with a sour taste. They would not want to go in with 2 straight losses. That's a bad way to kind of limp into the playoffs.
Yeah, and for Garfield too, this was a game that was close last year. Liberty gave them everything they had. We'll see if the Leopards can do the same thing against Garfield.
That game will be on Boxcast. We'll have it for you on Garfield's YSN page. 7 o'clock kickoff time for you there. Next game on the slate is a team that we've seen this year, a team that came back on Cardinal Mooney. Lindsley, West Virginia makes a trip to Louisville at 7 o'clock. Bob Burrick will be on the call. Louisville got a big win last week to bounce back from their loss to Glen Oak 2 weeks ago.
Louisville needs a win. It's their only path to the playoffs is through a win right now. And I mean, it's a Lindsley team that has beaten some of the best as far as teams like Steubenville, teams like Cardinal Mooney, we've said. But this is a Louisville team that gutted out a good win against a program that's been solid year in and year out. I don't care if they're having a down year. It's still a solid program to beat in NDCL. But now you got to go up against a Lindsley team where in their respective division, they're one of the best, 6-1 on the season. They haven't subbed their toe too much this season, but you're going to need to put everything together for the Leopards. And it would be huge for Louisville a season after the one they had last year where they struggled heavily to come into this one and get back to the playoffs.
I wonder what kind of division points they'd get for this win, since Lindsley isn't an Ohio school. It's from West Virginia, so they obviously aren't part of the OHSAA. So I wonder how many points Louisville would get for win. Would they just get Division I points because it's an out of
it's hard
state
to say.
school?
Well, they say 7 for Joe Idell for Lindsley. It says
7.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's accurate at all, because it's not one of, because
they're not even in they're not in the OHSAA, right? I'm not wrong with that.
So
they're in West Virginia.
I don't know how that's going to be calculated, but they say with a win on Joe Idell, Louisville can get as high as 12.86 points. But we'll have to see how those points are going to be calculated. But it is a chance for the Leopards indeed to get themselves into the playoffs. A win can get them as high as the 15 seed. They're sitting at 18 right now.
I wonder how much help. Sitting at 18, they'd probably need some help even with a win to get into the playoffs. So who are some teams that they have to scoreboard watch for?
There are definitely, you're looking at Harvey. That's a team that's ahead of them at 17. Akron East is a case where they can be knocked out of the playoffs. They're playing Akron, or they're already done. They played Akron Ellet last week. They've already finished their season, so they're 10 games in. They're 6-4, so they can drop out of the playoffs depending on who wins. New Philadelphia controls their own destiny, but they're playing Dover, which is never an easy game. Both those teams are 5-4. That's going to be an interesting game. Kenston's sitting at 15. They control their own destiny, but they play a 6-3 Mayfield team. So
there are really legitimate opportunities for Louisville if they get a win.
There are definitely. There's some coin flip games, and there's already a team that's finished their season in Akron East. Villa Angela St. Joe's is also a team that can be knocked out of the playoffs. They control their own destiny. They play a Worcester team that's 4-5, but we've seen them against Ursuline too, and Ursuline made them look bad that week, but they've bounced back. They're still a 7-2 football team, but crazy to see that these teams can be 7-3 and still knocked out of the playoffs.
Scheduling matters, people.
100%.
Let's go to the next game on the slate. It is Lisbon traveling to Columbiana. The Clippers have won 2 in a row. They're on a little bit of a hot streak, and Lisbon has had a season where they've looked really good at some different points in the season.
Yeah, and for Columbiana right now, they no path to the playoffs for the Clippers, right? Unfortunately, but for Lisbon, they've gotten into a situation where they've locked themselves into a position where they can control their own destiny. They haven't locked a playoff spot yet, but they are looking good, right? They're right on that cusp. With a win, they will clinch a playoff spot. They'll be within the 11 to the 14th seed, but a loss, they can still stay in the playoffs as high as 11, but they can also be knocked out. So this is a game where Clippers are looking to play spoiler, and they certainly could knock the Blue Devils out of the playoffs. Lisbon looking to finish the season strong, looking to bounce back after taking one against United and get back to the playoffs for the Blue Devils.
For Lisbon, it's easy. You win, you're in, right? That's just the end of the day. You win and you're in, and you let the chips fall where they may to see where you're seated. But the win gets you in, and boy, would it be nice to do it against their conference rival in Columbia. Joe Eusebio and Hoppy will be on the call for that one, 7 o'clock kickoff. Next on the slate, Middle Ridge travels to Waterloo. Connor Richardson going to Atwater for the call of this one. 7 o'clock is your kickoff. And Middle Ridge looking to end the season strong. They fought Lowville tooth and nail last week. They fell short. I think the 21-7 was the final score, which would be the lowest score that Lowville had been held to. Unfortunately for the Rams, Lowville's defense really showed up last week and kind of proved to the world that if Lowville's offense is struggling, their defense can step up and have their back, because Lowell's defense held Middle Ridge to just 7 points, which was the difference maker in that game. So Middle Ridge wants to bounce back and get a win to close out the regular season.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at where the Rams are currently sitting, and they're sitting at that 9 spot, right on the outside looking in of hosting. A win can put them in the 7 to 12 range. A loss will put them in the 9 to 12 range. Already clinched the playoffs, so Coach Shaner and his Rams are going back to the playoffs, and congratulations to Mineral Ridge for a playoff appearance. But for Waterloo, still, it's a game where a win puts them in position to at least have a shot. They'd be in the 13 range, but they can also miss the playoffs with a win. A loss would definitely put the Vikings out. But for Coach DeVries and crew, you're looking at this game and saying it's a tall task, but a win could potentially get us into the next round and have us playing next week.
So we talked about this with Louisville. How much help does Waterloo need to get into the playoffs if they're able to win?
Looking at it too, let me just double check and where these teams are ranked. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16. They're 23 right now. So for Waterloo, they would need a little bit of help. But I mean, the teams that are above them, Chippewa is one of them that's above them. They're playing a Dalton team that's 7-2. Chippewa's 2-7. Maslin Tuslaw are taking on Fairless, who's 7-2. Tuslaw's 3-6. Brooklyn's 3-6. They're taking on a 3-6 Independence team. That's probably the closest matchup for another team to get a win. But there's definitely, it's a lot of teams going up against a lot of David Goliath matchups, right? But for Waterloo, they got to look and say, hey, someone might be meant to win that. Someone might be meant to be the David in this one, right? And why not us?
So, but you said, I mean, they can get as high as what, 13? You're muted. Muted.
All right, excuse me. I said Newton Falls is another one of our teams in that case where they're just on the outside looking in, but they play Crestview as well. And Crestview is another one of those teams on the outside looking in this same region, Region 21. So it's
crazy that Waterloo can get as high as 13 when they're sitting at 23. That's a big window. It's a big window of possibility. Speaking of that Newton Falls game, they're actually next on our slate. Don't know if you knew that or not, but it's a perfect segue as the Tigers travel to Crestview. It'll be Alec Hancock's on the call here for the Rebels welcoming in the Tigers. And like you said, Newton Falls, a team that actually both these teams are on the outside looking in currently. Crestview has a little bit more of an outside chance because if they win, they don't need as much help. But still, Newton Falls can get a win and can get into the playoffs.
Actually, right now, Crestview's actually at the 16 spot. They're at the 16th seed.
You led me wrong.
I did. I'm sorry. I counted wrong because Joe Itel doesn't have the numbers. I have to count too, and I miscounted. I thought they were 17. They're 16. Newton Falls would be 21 then. So Newton Falls is 21. Crestview is 16. Both of these teams with a loss would be out of the playoffs. So flat out, you lose, you're out. Both of them with a win have a path to the playoffs, though. Newton Falls can get as high as 15. Crestview can get as high as 13. But for the Rebels and for the Tigers, they're going to be fighting for their playoff life. You lose and you're out. You're not playing next week. That's what
I'm guessing neither one of them are locked in with a win.
Neither of them would be locked in with a win. No, they would. They still have a chance to be knocked out. But like I said, there's plenty of other teams that are playing teams up like Tuslaw, Brooklyn, and Chippewa. These other teams that are right in that mix of the playoff positioning, right in the trying to find those last few spots. They all can definitely fall tonight with unfavorable matchups as well.
So both these teams are going to be scoreboard watching after they win. You know?
There's also teams too that are currently in playoff positioning that can be knocked out. As far as Southeast, Pie Valley, Trinity, they control their own destiny tonight, where a win puts them in, but a loss can also knock them out. So yeah, definitely a lot of scoreboard watching in this region.
We'll have to see what happens as the Tigers travel to Crestview tonight. Once again, 7 o'clock kickoff time for that. Alec Hancock's on the call. Niles, a team that I believe is officially eliminated from the playoffs. They will travel to Girard tonight to finish out their regular season. in the NE8. 7 o'clock kickoff for you there. Ian O'Brien will have the call.
Girard's currently sitting at 13, and yeah, Niles is mathematically eliminated, but Girard can still get into the 2 spot with a win. They can still jump 1 spot, and that would be big for Girard. And honestly, what it would mean right now, as we look down a little bit towards the playoffs, it would mean a difference between matching up with Hubbard and Akron Buchtel right now, between the 2 and the 3 seed for the Indians. So, I mean, it's all about matchups and who you would face again, but you get to the 2 seed, you would face a Hubbard team that you're familiar with again. You get the 3 seed, you're going to face Akron Buchtel. I mean, it's all about preference. What do you prefer as a coaching staff and as a team?
Remember earlier when I said scheduling matters, Girard is the perfect example of this because their non-conference schedule was so good that it kept them in the top tier of this region, even through their little losing streak they had in the middle of the year. They were sitting at 1 after 2 losses in a row, still sitting at 1, basically because of a win over Ellet, which was a huge win for the Indians, gave them so many points that it was just hard for teams to catch up. Now they're still sitting at 3, despite having 3 losses on the year? 2, 3, 3. 3?
3, yeah.
Oh, good. I was right. I should always trust my first gut instinct.
You got it.
No, I shouldn't. Like, don't. No, that's a bad idea. My instincts are 50-50. Don't be an Anthony. But yeah, Niles and Girard. This is a chance for, like you said, Girard to get a 2 seed after, a season that definitely did not go the way they wanted it to, the way that they expected it to after the start. They've been plagued by injuries in the middle of the season. But if they can kind of get into that 2 seed, then all of it's worth it.
It definitely is. I mean, and you look at what Girard's been doing. They've been playing good the last few weeks. They've been playing competitive. I mean, yeah, they took one against Struthers. Struthers ran away late with that one, but they got that big win against Hubbard, and I think that big win was huge confidence for them wise. And it stopped what could have been a 4-game losing streak after that win or that loss against South Range. So they were able to get that win against Hubbard, and that really has gotten them into great positioning for the playoffs, not only to get into the playoffs, but also to host a couple of games.
I wonder if you'd rather play a team a third time or a second time, I'm sorry, in Hubbard, or if you'd rather just match up with the kind of an unfamiliar opponent in Akron Buchtel.
For me personally, too, because of just NE8 play and NE8 teams, I would be not necessarily worried, but it'd be a little nerve-wracking playing Hubbard again, knowing that they came into our house, we hosted Hubbard. We would host them again, but we beat them 49-14 last time, right? Like,
that's not going to happen again.
And if that's been sitting in the back of Hubbard's brain, and for them to get a redemption shot, usually you got to wait a whole year for you to get a redemption shot that year, and these seniors to have another shot to be like, all right, like that's not how we play, too. Like that'd be a little bit nerve-wracking to go up against a team a second time. You already know each other. You already know what each other kind of does, too, especially since Hubbard's one of the few teams that has played them since the injury to Bengala. So you kind of see what their offense is like now. A little more familiarity for the Eagles with the Indians, for sure.
We'll have to see if that plays out. Once again, Niles and Girard, 7 o'clock kickoff. Ian O'Brien will have the call for you on ysnlive.com. Poland and Struthers, another NE8 matchup, is the Wildcats and the Bulldogs go at it. A classic matchup between cats and dogs. The rivalry is old as time.
And you know what? I got a chance to talk with Coach Bayek earlier
on Monday.
Yeah, and you know what? This was a huge win. You got to see the celebration too. We shared it on, and I mean, you see how much passion there is in this Struthers community, and how much passion there is for Coach Bayek. And one thing you really got, and I really got from that interview too, is that sense of just never giving up on each other, never giving up on this team too. And despite the times they were going through that rough patch, losing some overtime games, I asked him after that overtime loss to Hubbard, what do you kind of say to a team when, you know, you're 1-4 in a season? How do you turn this thing around? And I mean, they talk about believing in each other, and that's exactly what you see. The wins that they have: 41-3 against Lakeview, 42-14 against Jefferson, 27-13 against Niles, 42-28 against Girard. since that loss against Hubbard. And all those wins have compiled enough to get the Struthers Wildcats into the playoffs. They've already clinched their playoff spot. The big thing is now with a win, the Cats can have a range of 6-13, but they can host a playoff game the first week. So that's huge for Struthers with a win in this case. A loss puts them in the 10-16 range, but nonetheless, Wildcats are going to the playoffs this year. So is the Poland Bulldogs. They're at the 4-10 range with a win. So big for Poland as well. They can host not only one, but two playoff games with a win tonight, potentially. And a loss can put them in that 7-15 range. So you're talking about big windows for both of these teams. And like you said, it's a rivalry as old as the test of time. Cats and dogs going against each other.
I don't think, like, if you told Poland at one point in the season that they would be sitting where they could get a 4 seed, man, they would have been so ecstatic.
After the first couple of weeks, the first few weeks of this season, they're this. But like that's another thing too. We talk about like how romantic the Struther story is for them to be able to turn it around like they have to. Poland's kind of that same case. They were the win-loss. They were kind of that 50-50 team first few weeks of the season. Granted, their losses came against Canfield, Cheney, and South Range, but they really put it together. That win against Girard was huge for them. And they've done it with defense too. That 9-0 win against Lakeview. Hey, the wins haven't been pretty. They've been a little ugly at times, but wins are wins. And they've been enough to get the Bulldogs into playoff position.
You don't get computer points for win margin.
No, absolutely not. It's all about the wins too. And after losing to Jefferson last week, they want a redemption after that. They want to do right by their seniors. Even though they're going on the road, they want to do right by their seniors and end the regular season.
I would like that. Like, I would say, like, hey, let's have another senior night, right? We're on the road. Let's just have another senior night and make sure we send these seniors out on a positive note.
It's our turn to invade and take over a senior night now.
Right. And now, the Struthers is going to be a tough team to beat, though. They've, like you said, they've been a different team since that 1-4 start and the overtime loss to Hubbard.
And I tell you what, even in those 4 losses, we've talked about it. Your 2 overtime losses to Streetsboro and Hubbard, both solid teams, and they've been a team that's pushed South Range unlike any other NE8 team since. Like they've been the team, they've pushed South Range more than any other NE8 team since Niles beat them a few years ago. Like. Right. So for Struthers right now, they have a lot to build off of. They knew, and what Coach Bayek said, the one quote I love is that you knew the talent was there. It's just hard to put it or hard to build off of it when you're not seeing the results on the field. They're starting to see the results on the field, and it's definitely boosting the Cats' confidence.
Speaking of that South Range team, the final game in the NE8 slate of the season is going to be South Range going to Hubbard. It'll actually be David Williams and Jamie Thompson on the call for this one in Hubbard, and South Range looking to end another regular season at 10-0. They were emphatic winners last week, just like they have been ever since that Struthers game.
This is going to be an interesting matchup because Hubbard's also in a case where they're fighting for the playoffs. South Range looking to have another undefeated slate in the regular season. And what an incredible accomplishment that would be for Coach Yeagley and staff in this one. But definitely not going to be easy. The Hubbard Eagles are never a pushover team. And for Hubbard, they've already clinched their playoff spot, but their ranges are very interesting. A win puts them in the 4-14 range. A loss puts them in the 8-16 range. So Hubbard can host as many as 2 playoff games with a win, despite the fact that they're playing down a division against South Range because of South Range's record against the teams they faced, of course. But a loss can put them as low as the last spot, as 16 too. So you're talking 4-16 is their range with a win or a loss right now for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's their range, but their range is South Range, and that's the only range that matters tonight for Hubbard as they try to kind of stun the world and beat South Range and give them their first loss in the regular season since 2019. And what a better way to do it at home.
And question for you, Anthony, because this is the interesting thing for me. For South Range, outside of the regular season, what are you as Coach Yeagley? I mean, Coach Yeagley well. What is he saying to these boys to get them up for this game? I got to figure talking about the undefeated regular season because you look at South Range, they've already clinched the playoffs. They've already clinched the number 1 seed. So there's nowhere higher for.
Yeah, they can't drop. It's over. It's done.
They already got number 1 seed in their reach, and they're
probably the one high school team in the state that could actually say you know what? Let's just rest our starters and let's
And
just go play.
that's an interesting question. Does South Range not necessarily rest their starters, but do you see the starters get the 4 quarters of playtime? I'm curious to see maybe how the game.
Look, this isn't professional football where you want to rest your guys because they've been playing football for 10 years of their life. I think this is a game where unless it's a blowout, unless the opportunity presents itself, the starters will get their 4 quarters like they always do. I would be shocked if Coach Hagley coached this game any different than he would if stuff was on the line.
Well, I wouldn't think if it's a close game he's taking them out. But
right.
I mean, you don't take necessarily your starters, but you definitely worry about your QB and your backs.
The only thing he might do like, okay, let's stay away from play calls that kind of put our stars in harm's way. So maybe you won't see as many quarterback draws with Billy Skirpak. Maybe you won't see as many. They might be a little bit more vanilla this week, because they don't want to show as much on tape. They definitely won't try anything new. I think it'll be a week where they don't put anything new on tape. That's for sure, because they don't need to.
At the end of the day, you're right. And my thing, and just like my take on it is, you want to play, you want to still keep up that tradition of South Range football, but you don't want it to cost you the postseason, right? And you don't want to play, and whether that's running more vanilla type plays too, or maybe not giving as many snaps to guys too, maybe taking them off for a series, or maybe a play to letting some younger guys get some play experience as well. Because at the end of the day, I think the positions you're looking at, your QB, you're looking at some of your backs, key positions that you want to ensure are there for you next week for sure.
Right. And I think that then the message is, hey guys, if you take care of business in the first half, then you don't have to play the second half. Because if we're up by 35, there's no sense in playing you guys for the 2 quarters.
Get that little break. Business, and then you get the half off. They've already earned the number 1 seed in the region too. Nowhere else for them to go.
South Range at Hubbard tonight at 7 o'clock. Once again, the Hubbard crew getting together is David Williams and Jamie Thompson will both be on the call for that one as they try to kind of will their Eagles to victory. It would be the perfect formula for a Hubbard win. It really would. It's a last home game. You got Jamie back in the booth. He's been, it'd be a perfect formula. But
it would be great for sure.
South Range will definitely try to prevent that as much as possible and get their undefeated regular season. We're gonna take a break, and another break on Running Point. Be back with more football previews as we continue the Friday episode of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun, it all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Why choose local? Because you live here, work here, learn here, relax here, and celebrate here. 21 WFMJ is our Valley's only locally owned TV station, and our focus is local. Other TV stations don't have that same focus, as their owners are somewhere else. But 21 WFMJ is rooted in the Valley. Local people making decisions that affect your life, right here where you live.
You're looking to your future, preparing for your goals, and they're closer than you think. Because here, success is part of the plan. It's a place where academic and social opportunities are meant to prepare you for life, not just the next 4 years. You'll be equipped to face new challenges and turn hard work into a career. You're ready for your success to take root. And here's where it starts. We are Youngstown State University, and proud.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers.
From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle.
And lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history. No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com or find us on Facebook.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin. Down Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell as we continue on this Football Friday preview. We left you guys off with South Range traveling to Hubbard, the end of the NE8 slate for the regular season. And we go from that to Southeast, going to JFK. That old game will be played in Liberty, and Dom O'Brien will have the call at 7 o'clock as Liberty is on the road.
Another similar case for the Eagles. They've already clinched the number 1 seed as well in their own right. So they have really nowhere else to go but up. But as for the Southeast Pirates playing,
they can't go up either. They've reached the ceiling.
Yeah, they've reached.
There's nothing higher than 1. There's not the 0 seed.
But Southeast is a team that controls their own destiny. A win would put them in the playoffs. A loss can put them out, but they could still be in the playoffs. 12 is the highest they can get with a loss. But Southeast is fighting for their playoff life. But it's going to be interesting, too, because I feel like JFK's similar situation we just talked about with South Range, where JFK takes care of business in a half. You might not see those starters get as much playing time.
Can you imagine if there was a seed higher than 1? It was like the automatic ticket to the regional finals seed because you're that good.
That's like America's Got Talent with like the golden
buzzer. Boom!
Golden buzzer. The Eagles to
let's
the regional final.
Let's give JFK the golden buzzer because let's just be real. They don't have to play the first 2 rounds.
The golden buzzer.
Go right to the regional semifinals. Do not pass go. And definitely collect $200.
Definitely.
Southeast is a team that's going to come into this game with not needing a victory, but really, really, wanting a victory to not make them sweat out the scoreboard as far as their chances in the playoffs go. And those kind of teams can be dangerous because they're going to be desperate against a JFK team that isn't desperate at all. So it's going to be one that I think Southeast is going to throw the kitchen sink. At JFK, they're going to probably try everything they can to get a win, whether it be trick plays or pulling stuff that they haven't put on film. They'll come above and beyond to try to get this win. And it will be a home game for JFK, but I mean, not really because they're playing in Liberty.
It's going to be difficult. I mean, for teams like South Range and JFK tonight, where you're already the number 1 seed, and like we say all the time, like these are kids still at the end of the day. So it's a lot easier than you think for these kids to be like, well, a win or a loss doesn't really do much for us playoff wise or anything. We've already won our conference. Like, I mean, there's that's locked up too. So I mean, it's a case though for both teams where it's easy to let this slip too and try to find stuff to get motivated, get up, and get excited for extras to get excited for.
It's a home game, but it's a 20-minute drive by car from JFK to Liberty. So it's like your normal, in area road trip. It's not a long bus ride, but it's not exactly like you're going right next door. So, yeah, JFK, it's a home game, but not really. I don't know what kind of advantage that gives them. I know they've been really on the road, like far on the road for some of their games. So their fans are probably happy they don't have to leave work early to get to a game before 6:30.
Yeah, they're used to it. JFK will be they'll be fine, and the JFK faithful will show up. And
no doubt. I wasn't trying to say that like JFK would struggle to show up here. I was just trying to point out the fact that it's technically a home game, but like the JFK doesn't have that home field advantage to kind of lean on. But like I said, they're playing a team in Southeast that's going to be desperate. That's always dangerous to watch. But I think this is a game where JFK just once again can put their foot down and say, look, we've played Division III teams, we've played Division II teams. We're not going to bat our eye at this Southeast team.
JFK fans would charter a 6-hour flight to ensure they.
Oh yeah, they'd book it. They'd just be like, let's go.
We're going.
By the way,
the Eagles are playing tonight.
United Airlines almost lost my wheelchair on the way to Kansas City. So don't fly United, because I don't know how you lose a wheelchair. But we waited in the airport for like 20 minutes for them to find it and bring it to baggage claim. It's supposed to be waiting for me outside of the plane to take me down the ramp. No, you have a wheelchair? Yes, I have a wheelchair. Go get it.
Don't fly United Airlines. What's the next game on the docket?
Let's go do it. Good job. Way to get us right back on it. Next game on the docket. Oh, jeez, it reloaded.
You couldn't have planned that. It's United at Southern.
I know, but what was that noise?
You planned that. You just don't fly United. Next game, United at Southern.
United at Southern. Good job.
Good.
You can fly that United train as they go to Southern. This is a big game. Might be the most competitive game of the night. And Chris Sigler is going to be down in the Wigwam Fort at 7 o'clock kickoff there for you guys. Man, I know that it doesn't have EOAC championship implications anymore, but still 2 1-loss teams going at it for superiority and playoff seeding.
Oh, these two teams are so good too. I mean, United, I've gotten a chance to see them this season. Southern, I've caught on the network plenty of times. I mean, they're 2 bruising teams. They are both playing for big playoff positioning. United's sitting at 9. Outside looking in, they want to host next week. They need a win to be able to do so. A win would put them in the 5 to 9 range, but a great chance at hosting next week. Southern right now in Region 25, the Indians are sitting right now at the 6th spot. A win can put them in the 2 to 4 range. A loss would put them in the 4 to 9 range. But definitely both teams looking to host playoff games next week, and a loss could mean that they won't. And on top of all that, it's a conference battle, 2 1-loss teams. And hey, it's 9-1, still a season to be proud of too. And both these teams would love to go 9-1 on the year.
All right, so you look at this matchup, and you look at how both teams played against Valley Christian. Now, not every matchup is equal. I'm not the fan of, they beat us by 30, but we beat them by, but they only beat them by, 5. So, obviously, we're going to have a tough time. I don't agree with that being the end-all, be-all of the conversation. But there is something to be said that Valley Christian and Southern went 15-6. And then you look at the Valley Christian and United score, much more domination by Valley Christian. And I think that's just because similar styles in Southern and Valley Christian. They both like to play kind of slower physical football. United wants to play the spread you out offense and really high scoring, fast tempo offensive football. So against Valley Christian, the Eagles, Valley Christian Eagles, took United out of it. They couldn't really get that spread offense going with physicality at the line. They were bumping wide receivers. be interesting to see how much of that Southern does, how much of that physical will they're able to impose on United. I think if United still, I think if they score more than 24 points, they can win this game. But, obviously Southern is a defense that doesn't allow too many people to score more than 24 points.
I think also important to note too that that United game with Valley Christian came in week 4 of the season, and it was a home game for Valley. Valley was a lot more healthy too before when they matched up with Southern and Wellsville in weeks 8 and 9, and both those were away games where Valley had their struggles against the Tigers and the Indians too. So different looking teams, different points of the season, and also the Southern game being an away game and the United game being a home game for Valley could have some factors to do with it. But yeah, Southern definitely played a better game against Valley, and they're definitely a more defensively sounded team, and with that and how they've gotten their wins. But United hasn't been a pushover defensively. Actually, since that loss to Valley Christian, United hasn't given up more than 8 points in a ball game right now, and currently they are sitting at giving up a total of 27 points in the last 5 weeks. Excuse me. So United's defense has been good. This is going to be a slobber knocker of a game.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, it's going to come down to, what style of football kind of imposes their will. Because unlike the Valley Christian versus Southern game where the styles were similar, these two styles are vastly different. So it's really going to come down to who controls tempo. If Southern goes on those long 10, 12-play drives that eat up the clock and keeps United offense off the field just by sheer will of we're holding on to the football, that can be a big thing. Here's another key, and one of the differences in that Southern local Valley Christian game, special teams will be a factor. Can Southern local stay away from the mistakes on special teams? It was 8-6. It was 8-6 Valley Christian. Southern got the ball back, and then a snap went over the punter's head. And Valley Christian recovered. They went in, they scored again to steal the game at 15-6. You can't have mistakes like that in a game of this caliber.
That's going to be certainly something that they're going to need to look to clean up going into this week. But for both these teams, I mean, Coach Wright's a great coach for the Indians. Coach Ogilvy's a great coach over there for the Eagles. I mean, there's great coaching on both sides, great athletes on both sides. They have great size and strength on the lines. Like I said, it's going to be an old school type of football matchup, defensively sound on both sides. You expect, I don't expect a high scoring football game in this one at all. I'd be shocked if either team really eclipses the much past the 30 mark. I feel like 30 is going to be right around the range we're going to see if it gets that high. Here's Chris Siggy, and Siggy's going to be the best for the breakdown. Yards after contact, and both teams keep the other playmakers limited after initial contact. And we call that runs after catch too. And then that's catch after contact.
Yak.
Yards after. Yak. You got to get a good yak too. And you also want broken tackles too. And both of these teams are capable of breaking a couple of tackles to get extra yards. They fight for everything, every extra inch. And that's going to be certainly a thing you're going to be looking at. The line play, but also the linebacker play. That second wave of defense is what's going to slow down the run game of both of these teams.
I'd be interested to see who has the most yards after a catch in the EOAC. I would bet that it's Grant Knight.
He's something else, man.
He's special at taking those little bubble screens and then just running 60 yards for a touchdown for him. Because if they get him into open space, it's almost over. So I think Southern has to really watch that and make sure that they don't let Grant Knight get into the open field.
Grant Knight's superpower is turning a whole football field into an ice rink because he just puts everyone on ice once he touches it. It's ridiculous. He's ridiculous. He has such quick feet, quick handles too when he has the football. I mean, he's a playmaker that can get you everything extra, and he can definitely break away for some scores at any given moment.
All right, so we go from one big game that Chris Stigler has to the next one that DJ Oakley is going to be on the call for. It's the Holy War. It's Ursuline versus Mooney. Do we have to say anything else? Mooney's social media has not used the letter U all week, and Ursuline social media has not used the letter M all week. It's one of those matchups where you just do not like each other. It's bragging rights on the line. It's Youngstown. It's just everything you want in a rivalry. I think it's the best rivalry in the area. I know some other people will say, best rivalry on Ysn family. Some other people, there are definitely good ones. Beaver Local, East Liverpool, great one. Blue versus red. You got Yeah, South Range, Springfield. But I think Ursuline Mooney, the Holy War, both just programs that have won state championships in the past, like it's their job. Both prestigious programs. It doesn't get better than Ursuline versus Mooney.
What's interesting in this matchup too, I mean, obviously throw records out the window, but these are actually two really good football teams. I don't care.
For the first time in a while, both these teams come in with a pretty decent record.
Yeah, and despite the fact that Mooney's 4-5 because the one game had to get reversed earlier in the season, but Mooney's still being 4-5 right now. You look at their losses too. Mooney has not allowed more than 28 points all season. And for an Ursuline team that thrives on the 50, the 40-point games too, and really just burying you with their offense, Mooney takes that approach where they play defensively sound football. Where they lose is where Ursuline thrives, is when their offense misses a beat too. They lost to Steubenville 28-7. Offense couldn't keep up. Defense, though, gave them a chance, brought turnovers. Same thing with Lindsley too. The offense went silent in the second half, and what we saw too. But they played a good game against Boardman. Again, 10-7 win for Boardman. It was the offense. So that's been the theme for Ursuline, though. When it comes down to it, it's the defense that lets them up. Akron St. Vincent St. Mary, 35 points allowed is a game Ursuline dropped. 42 points allowed to Fitch is a game that they dropped. It's a tale of two tapes for these two teams, but it's the holy war. You got to get up for it. Nothing else more really exciting than in Youngstown football than Mooney Ursuline.
But when Ursuline wins, yes, they're scoring a lot, but their defense also steps up too. And they do force a lot of turnovers. Their secondary are ball hawks, especially DC Farrell back there. I think Ursuline needs to play that turnover game. They rely on the turnover more than just we're going to stone cold stop your offense. We're going to turn you over and then use our offense to score, and steal a possession here and there. The double-edged sword to that is there have been times when Ursuline's offense has gotten into the turnover bug a little bit, and that's got them into trouble. So they need to protect the ball against this really good Cardinal Mooney defense. And you can't give that offense that has struggled at times this season good field position. That's just like, hey, that's like giving them a gift. Hey, your offense is struggling, but here's the ball at the 22-yard line.
Ashton O'Brien can definitely make things happen with short field too. And it goes how the run game goes too, because Ashton O'Brien really can kick it into AOB can kick it into another gear when Aiden Page and company are really establishing that run game for them too. It's going to be interesting to see how Coach Reardon decides to attack Coach Pellini's offense in this one, and vice versa, because like you said, Mooney's been able to create turnovers against some of the best of the best. It's how they finish those drives when they're able to create turnovers. And for Ursuline, obviously key, you got to win the turnover battle. Easy to say, but Ursuline has gotten into the turnover bug. I would say outside of winning the turnover battle, Ursuline can't really allow more than like a turnover against the Cardinals in this one. They can't get into the multiple turnovers in this game. It would definitely put them in trouble, I think, against Mooney.
I think it's so awesome that they're both coached by names that just ring into the tradition of the program too.
Absolutely.
Reardon and Pellini. I mean, that's just like, if you want last names that just ring all throughout the legacy of the football programs, those two are definitely two of them.
To talk about these teams a little bit further in depth than just where they are, I mean, Ursuline right now is sitting at 3 in Region 9. They can get as high as 2 with a win or a loss. They can drop as low as 4 with a win, and as low as 6 with a loss. So for Ursuline, really a win means that they will host 2 playoff games in the next couple of weeks, providing that they can win next week, of course. A loss could put them out of hosting that second playoff game. They would still host the first one regardless. But for the Cardinals now on the other end in Region 17, Mooney is sitting at 13, but they do control their own destiny. And what that means is a win can get them into the playoffs. A loss can put them out. A win puts them in the ranges of 7-14. So even hosting a first-round playoff game, a loss would put them with the ranges of as high as the 11 seats, of course, out of the playoffs. So still an opportunity. Mooney has a good chance, though. Not a ton of teams fighting for positioning outside of it. 4 teams on the outside looking in that can still make a run. But Mooney, with the wins that they've gotten, have definitely helped them to this point. A win, though, does get them into the playoffs at 5-5.
I'm telling you, if they're 13 to 11 to 10, those higher seeds that welcome them into the game, you better watch out.
Here's the matchup too, and I talked on this Monday too, and it'd be Edison and Mooney if we were to start right now.
Yeah.
So that 9-0 Edison team, that's potentially 10-0 Edison team. I mean, you talk about like you want to open up playoffs with a challenge too. But here's the caveat though: if Edison beats Mooney, you've seen one of the best. You've seen a team that can very well compete with almost everyone in this region.
And here's the thing: if Edison beats Mooney, it's like, okay, let's put respect on that, because
you have to put respect on the Wildcats.
Edison went 9-0 and they got kicked out of our power rankings. So I think there are still a lot of people that are like, Edison. If Edison beats Mooney in the first round of the playoffs, maybe that's enough to be like, okay, this is real.
And for Mooney too, we've talked about it. Those top few teams too. Talk about a first round. You may potentially see Mooney drop to 16. We could see South Range Mooney round 1. And you want to talk about a draw game, like South Range welcoming in the Cardinals round 1.
Like I can't remember them playing each other in football.
That would be a crazy fun matchup for a week
That'd be a divided household for me, because that's my alma mater versus my dad's alma mater. So
your dad's just locking you in your room. You're not coming out for it.
You're not coming over this weekend, bud. Screw you.
Oh man, but no, we're going to be scoreboard watching Region 17 because a lot of our teams, I'm curious to see how this is going to shake out.
And my dad was a part of the I forget, it was a year in the 70s. Their freshman team that they were on went undefeated and unscored upon. And he has a shirt from the 70s that's like,
that's awesome.
It says undefeated and unscored upon. That's one of his claims to the Mooney history.
No, talk about defense. You put up a wall.
Right.
You're just like, nope.
You can't get a field goal. You get nothing. You get nothing. Not even a safety. Nothing. Unscored upon. That's impressive.
That is.
We go into your game. You're usually at the top of the list with Fitch. Now you're down to the fourth to last. Warren Harding coming to Fitch, and man, it's a Harding team that we continue to say the same thing about. Can they make game-winning plays in close games? They did against Boardman, but then they're always competitive. They just can't find a way to make those plays down the stretch that are going to give them wins. Which means Fitch has to be scared of this game, because you can't think it's not going to be competitive. And it's always competitive with these two.
The biggest issue, I mean,
can they make those plays? That's the question.
The question you're also looking at, the biggest question mark on everything too, is, I mean, you're playing without Deshaun Vaughn, broken ankle against Boardman in week 9. He's done for the season. So Cam Smith, Iowa State commit, safety. We've seen him throw a 30-yard dime past the Dom Perry at the end of that Boardman game. He looks to be the starter going into tonight. And he's going to be the guy that you're going to be leaning upon. And he gave some confidence, I think, to the Falcon faithful. He's also a big guy that can run and get some extra yards as well. Jamel James is also banged up after that first play against Wadsworth where he got injured. We're going to have to see his status. I don't know how he's going to be going into this one. DJ Williams might be taking the brunt of the carries, which obviously
okay with that. He just broke the program record.
Yeah,
for
not a
yards
bad
in
thing.
game.
He got 300 yards last week. But you're going to be looking at DJ Williams that probably gets the brunt of the carries. And also, we're going to be looking at the status of our man, Brian Robinson, B-Rob, too. He's been dealing with a fractured ankle, too. He's been healing the last couple weeks. Didn't play in that Boardman game. I don't know if they're going to start him in this game. They might rest him for the playoffs. We'll have to see. But the Falcons trying to get healthy. Harding still has a chance to get in the playoffs, too, and that makes this Harding team very dangerous. They took Chaney to all they were worth last week again. Harding with a win can get as high as the 10 seed. A loss puts them out of the playoffs. They can still not make the playoffs with a win as well. Fitch has already clinched it. A win gives them the range of 2 to 5. A loss puts them in the ranges of 3 to 5. But Fitch would definitely like to keep themselves in the top 4 to host those 2 playoff games.
Fitch can't get lower than 5.
They can't get lower than 5. So
you don't have to hit the panic button if you're a Falcon fan and you come out of the wrong end of this one. But like you said, there's this. I think Falcon fans are kind of panicking because some of their stars are really, wavering right
big
now.
Big names are yeah.
But here's an advantage. Here's something that I think is an advantage to having Cam Smith come in at quarterback. There's no tape. Like, there's no scouting report that Warren Harding can put together on what Cam Smith can do as a quarterback. He had how many drives did he came in? Did he come in?
He only threw one pass, and it was a 30-yard dime.
Right, so there's
for a touchdown. So.
There's not a lot of tape. You can't do a lot of scouting report on what Cam Smith is going to bring to the table. So It'll be interesting to see how Fitch handles the playbook and what what they lean on. I think they have to start off trying to get him into rhythm with some plays that are high percentage success plays that just give him confidence, whether those be runs, design runs for him, or short passes, screens, bubble screens, things like that just give you a little bit of confidence and give you rhythm. That's what you always have to do with someone that is stepping into a new starter role at the quarterback position.
And I mean, you look at Cam Smith, honestly, too, another great guy to have to lead a program and lead under center, too. We've had a chance to talk with him. I mean, high character athlete, too, a great young man. Iowa State commit, like we mentioned. He's going to go there, likely play safety out there. But for the Cyclones, but this has been a fantastic team this year, and they've always had kids that step up. Cam Smith has the opportunity to step up in that major role for the Falcons.
It's the little things that I think might come back to haunt, like ball exchange and things like that you just have to have reps with. The read option when they have to decide if you're going to pull the ball out or take it, and those are going to be split-second decisions. Can Cam Smith make those decisions constantly and consistently and make the right ones consistently? Because if you wait a little bit too long and then try to pull it out, that is a fumble waiting to happen, which Fitch does not want to see.
Here's what the teams above Fitch real quickly are looking like. Archbishop Hoban, the Akron Hoban Knights, they're taking on St. Ed's tonight, 8-1 St. Ed's.
That'll be a good game.
Fantastic game, and that's a 50-50 game. So the number 1 seed Hoban Knights haven't clinched number 1. They can still drop to number 2 with a loss. The only team that can grab number 1 are the Riverside Beavers, who take on 4-5 South Rebels from Willoughby South. So that'll be interesting. Hudson will be taking on Stowe Monroe Falls, who is 1-8, so should expect Hudson to win in that one. And the team below Fitch is St. Vincent St. Mary's, the team that beat Ursuline. And that Irish team in St. V's is going to be taking on Walsh Jesuit, another really good team, 7-2 in Region 5. So some big games going on around. We're going to be scoreboard watching in this one as well to see where Fitch is going to be shaken out in this region.
This is the one time of the year where you might see a lot of non-YSN scores be reported on the Joe Dickey Electric Scoreboard Show.
Yeah, and I mean, it's because they all have implications on the YSN schools and where they're going to be.
We move on to the next game on the list. It is Wellsville, who got so close to that upset last week. They will be going to Latonia to close out the regular season. Larry Scragg will be on the call. And if Isaiah Greathouse plays like he did last week, then the Bears are going to have a really tough time stopping Wellsville.
People need to start giving this young man some respect. Isaiah Greathouse has been phenomenal. We've seen him have 4 touchdown games before this season. Like, when he is going, that offense is a well-oiled machine, and he has single-handedly taken over ball games at points. But for the Tigers right now, what's interesting for Wellsville is they still have a shot at making the playoffs, and this is a great opportunity for them to do so. I want to see exactly where they're ranked. I don't know exactly. I think they're right either on the outside looking in or they're in right now. They're 19 right now. A win can put them as high as 13. A loss can still put them in the playoffs as high as 15, though. Both a win and a loss, though, can also mean they miss the playoffs. But definitely favored, I would say, are the Tigers in this one. They're going to be upset after how they lost last week, and they're going to be looking to get a win and possibly guaranteeing themselves a game next week.
Hey, just another team that'll be scoreboard watching after their win or loss.
Gotta love Week 10, man. Gotta love Week 10.
Western Reserve travels to Lowville as they're the last team standing that can beat the Rockets. 7 o'clock is the start time there. Noah Doty and CJ Strodes will be on the call. Western Reserve, tough luck this year. A lot of tough luck.
They have had a lot of tough luck, but just like Wellsville, they're sitting at the 17 spot in their region. So just on the outside looking in, they actually, interestingly enough, are in a spot because they play Lowville. We talk about it when you have to play those tough teams at the end. It's hard because you gotta overcome that mountain. But if they do, they control their own destiny. A win puts them in the playoffs flat out. If they win, they're in.
Can they get in with a loss?
They can. They can actually get in as high as 13 with a loss. So Western Reserve, I mean, you talk about a Cinderella story with how they started out this year with the 1-5 record to be able to get back to the playoffs too. Coach Armini's the guy to do it as well. Like we've had a chance to talk with Coach Armini before when he's on. He's a great coach for the area too. He's the type of guy that can get these boys up for this game. And for Lowville, they're in a position too in Region 25 where the Rockets can't really get any higher than 2. A win will clinch them the 2 spot, but a loss can put them in as low as the 4 spot. But the good thing for the Rockets, where Lowville fans can breathe easy, you're guaranteed, as long as Lowville takes care of business in the first round playoff game, you're going to be guaranteed at least 2 home playoff games.
Right. And Lowville trying to end the season with a 10-0 record as well. That is also on the line for the Rockets. Wheeling Central Catholic will be at Beaver Local, and what Beaver Local did to John Hay last week.
Oh my goodness.
Was that eye-opening to anybody? Because John Hay came in with a really good record, and Beaver Local just said, no, you don't. Nope, you have a trash record. We're going to prove it.
I was talking about that too. We discussed it, I think, last week, Anthony, on the wins that John Hay had, and they were a little bit suspect.
Yeah, they're sus. They're sus a little bit.
Little sus on the wins. What was the one, East Technical or whatever?
Oh, yeah. We were like East Tech.
But nonetheless, I was mentioning Friday how this was going to be a big computer point game for Beaver Local if they can win, because they're playing up 2 divisions and they're playing a team that was 7-1. And boy, was it ever, because you look at where the Beavers are ranked now. They're at number 2 in their region. They're the only team that could potentially take the number 1 seed away from West Branch. West Branch can clinch number 1 with a win against Salem, but if Salem pulls off the upset, Beaver Local is the only team that could potentially sneak in to that number 1 spot. And you talk about a great opportunity for the Beavers. After starting off with the first 2 losses, win 8 straight, and find themselves at the number 1 spot in the region.
Incredible. After starting off 0-2.
It's going to be West Branch's advantage because they don't play tonight. They'll be able to see what they have in front of them, so they'll know what they need to do to get that number 1 spot.
It's incredible because even in the first 2 losses for Beaver Local, they didn't even look that good. They looked like they were struggling, and they turned on the Jets in a big way. They've had 5 games since then that have been 50 or more.
Oh my goodness, they've been impressive, and they've scored 6 games where it's 50 or more. No, 5 games where it's been 50 or more. Excuse me.
Okay, 5.
3 where it's been 60 or more, and then the other games they scored 42 and 31. This is a 7-0 Wheeling Central Catholic team from West Virginia. So, we don't know a whole lot about those West Virginia teams, but we know anytime that these teams have crossed the border over here to Ohio, they haven't had a great time facing our Ohio team. So we'll see how Central Catholic from West Virginia fares against the Beavers, but Beaver Local looking to potentially get the number 1 seed in their region.
Mike McKenzie will be on the call, and the Fighting McKenzies will go up against Wheeling Central Catholic at 7 o'clock. Last but not least, last on the network, I should say, it is East Liverpool hosting Weir at 7 o'clock. It'll be Noah Kelly on the call there, as the Potters got their first win on Patterson Field last week. They try to get their second win this week against Weir.
Yeah, that was nice for the Potters to get their second win of the season too, and kind of get some more confidence breathed back into the program, and they have another chance to do so against another West Virginia team, and we're 5-3 on the season. They definitely showed Oak Glen from West Virginia how we do it over here in Ohio. Big emphatic 44-12 win. And you know what? Who's to say that they don't do it again? I know that Weir's a little bit better of a team, but hey, Ohio football, we do it different over here in this state. So the Potters can definitely make not only East Liverpool, but the state of Ohio proud, because I know YSN going to be watching in that one as another state battle, both Beaver Local and East Liverpool. Call it like the mega powers. They're like bitter enemies that are tag teaming for this matchup against the West Virginia schools.
All right, there are 4 teams within the YSN family that are not going to be on the network tonight, unfortunately. Jackson Milton will be traveling to McDonald at 7 o'clock. Sebring will be at Springfield at 7 o'clock. Edison finishes out the season on the road at Indian Creek at 7 o'clock, and then Orange travels to Kirtland at 7 o'clock as well. Those will not be on the network, but are happening. As we go to Saturday, last one, and it's a really big rivalry. Stop me if you heard that before in Week 10. Salem at West Branch. We all know how last year ended. It was the best game of the year last year. Can it live up to that billing this year?
What's interesting, even more interesting than the fact that these two teams play the same conference, that these two teams are also in the same region. And what's even more interesting is that even though Salem can't take the EBC away from West Branch, they already have that conference championship. They can still take the number 1 seed in the region away from West Branch. And what's even better for the Quakers, a win puts them in a range of 2 to 10. So Salem can get as high as the 2 seed with a win. But even more so than that, if they can get into the top 4, you're talking about a Salem team that right now is sitting at number 8, I believe. Let me see. I'll double check that. Yeah, number 8. So they're just on the outside, or just on the inside, I should say, of hosting.
If they stay there, we could see a second-round matchup between Salem and West Branch.
You definitely can. But Salem wants to keep themselves hosting. They can host as many as 2 playoff games as well. And for the Quakes, they can get all that and more. But on top of all of that, the most important part, they can beat their rivals and avenge that game from last year. Right. All those kids that remember it. Jackson Johnson, one of the important, notable names in this one for sure.
Salem can wash away all the troubles this season that they've had with a win here this tonight.
Some tough.
This West Branch, like Salem has had a good season, so I'm not trying to say they haven't. West Branch is the game where you could go 1-9. If that one win is against West Branch, it's good. We have a good season. It's just that kind of rivalry.
Alliance was their worst win, quote unquote, of the season, and it was an 11-point defeat, 41-30. Outside of that, 39-34 defeat to Carrollton, and a 35-31 defeat to Canton Central Catholic. Like, Salem's been in there on a lot of games too. They've been competitive.
The teams haven't been able to stop their offense.
Yeah. And that's been the most important part. And no team's been able to put their foot down and stomp out Salem. So I don't expect this to be a game like that at all. I expect this to be competitive outside of the fact that you throw records out the window. But these are both 2 really good football teams. And Salem, they're looking like they want to get that top 4 seed. They want to get those two home games. They can get that if they beat the Warriors here. And for West Branch, they can clinch the number 1 seed with a win. So, the Warriors have a lot to play for, too.
If Salem wins and Mosey's up to the 2 spot and then has a better seed than West Branch, that'd be the ultimate stick, right?
It's
yeah, you won the EBC, but we're ranked higher than you in the computer points.
What's also interesting, you might also see West Branch 1 Salem 2. That could also be a possibility in this.
Could it though? Like if West Branch loses and Salem gets to 2, can West Branch stay at 1? Or would Beaver Local? I mean, I guess if Beaver Local lost too.
Well, West Branch, can't stay at 1 with a loss 1 to 2 range. It also depends on Beaver Local
1 to 2 range. So I guess if Salem gets a 2, then West Branch would have to get to 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would have to be 1 versus.
I don't think it necessarily means that Beaver Local has to just lose. Beaver Local could still win this game, and West Branch can get number 1. I think it also depends on the teams that both these teams have beaten, how they finish their season as well.
Right. But there's no way that Salem can get 2 and West Branch can get 3. So my initial proposition is impossible.
Let me double check. I believe because West Branch, the lowest they can get is 2. The highest Salem can get is 2. Yeah.
Right. So,
but
if Salem gets to the 2 spot, it will be because Beaver Local gets knocked out.
Yeah, because Beaver Local would be the 3 spot. Beaver Local with a win can still get as low as the 3 spot. They're 1 to 3 range. So
and Beaver Local can get the 1 spot. So they're hoping that West Branch is able to lose to Salem and they can sneak up into that.
There's 2 teams competing for the number 1 spot in this region right now, which is very interesting. And there's quite a few teams that there's right now a total of, I think, 6 teams that can get the number 2 spot in this region right now.
Like you said, West Branch has the advantage of playing on Saturday, so they'll go into Saturday knowing exactly where they stand and what they need to do and where they'll be if they win and where they'd be if they lose. So there won't be any scoreboard watching after the game for West Branch, but there will be a ton of scoreboard watching tonight for West Branch.
Yeah, the Warriors are the only team in this region, though, that have clinched a top 4 spot, so they will get 2 playoff games at home, providing they can win next week.
Oh yeah. I thought I was like, wait a minute. You mean provided they win their first round game?
Yeah. Provided that they win their first round game, they will get 2 playoff games, but they are guaranteed a top 4 spot in this region.
All right. So that'll do it for the football previews. Before we get out of here, I want to go over the tournament games for other sports that will be happening on Saturday as well. As we preview kind of the weekend, Fitch will be hosting Nordonia in volleyball. I'll start with volleyball. These are all going to be volleyball matchups. Fitch will be hosting Nordonia. Struthers will go to Edgewood. Let's see. Geneva will play West Branch. Wycliffe and Middle Ridge will square off against each other in Kirtland. Garrettsville Garfield has Andrews Osborne. We have Richmond Heights against Badger. East Palestine matches up with Dalton. Boardman will take on Lakeside. Alliance will be taking on Jefferson. Champion will be taking on Kirtland. Camel has Berkshire. That's going to be the 6th seed Berkshire, but Camel feels really confident that they can win that game. So we'll see how that plays out. That'll be in Berkshire. There'll be I believe the first game, the second game of that slate will be Garfield and Osborne, if I'm not mistaken. Latonia will be playing Canton Central Catholic, and then McDonald will have the Academy of Urban Scholars for sectional finals. All of those are sectional finals, so the winners of those games will lock their place into the district semis. Girls soccer action on Saturday. Lakeview Howland is going to be a really good match. Lakeview has a turnaround season. We've said it before. Just 5 wins last year, and they went all the way to the final game to try to clinch that NEA championship, falling to Poland and eventually not getting it. But they pushed Poland all season. Salem and Urson on the girls' side. We saw the boys' side get really good. Salem will play Urson on the girls' side tomorrow, and then Ravenna will take on Hubbard. Niles will take on Poland. Gerard will take on Canfield. Fitch will take on Maslin Jackson, and Louisville will take on Solon.
Should be fun matchups all the way around, too. I'm excited for it, as Saturday brings us not only another Week 10 football matchup, but a bunch of tournament action for other sports as well.
A lot on the line on Saturday. A lot
on the line this week. I mean, these are just all high-impact games, and not only football, but matches in volleyball, matches in soccer. I mean, there's a lot of fun, high-impact matches and games going on this week and weekend. So definitely stay tuned to ysnlive.com for your scores. Stay tuned for the live football games, and get out there and support some of these other sports while you can, too. Go catch a volleyball match. Go catch a soccer match if you can as well, because we got some talent in this area.
Ty, where's your place to be tomorrow if you go to one place?
How do you not say? I mean, like you look at all these teams too. I mean, obviously, I'm going to pay attention to what the Falcons are doing, because they've been the team I've been kind of following. But I'm also looking at Garfield too, and I've been kind of interested in seeing what
both teams on paper have favorable matchups.
They do, and for Garfield, obviously, they play in a tougher district too. You got to get through the where they at. Berkshire would be the next round if they were to win this one, and that's a team because they went 5 sets with Berkshire.
Either Berkshire or Camel, who they've seen both of them before. So if Garfield gets the win, there's at least a very familiar opponent sitting on the other end of that district semi.
And Osborne's going to be an interesting one. Garfield being a 7 seed, I am interested to see if it does line up. Obviously, I'm rooting for Camel to have 2 YSN teams, but if it does line up and goes chalk, I'm interested to see the Badgers and the Lady G-Men go up against each other, because that was a very competitive 5-set match in the regular season.
I think Camel's putting together something special.
They definitely are. And Coach Allen is doing something incredible over there. He really is.
I'm looking at the numbers they put in on their win against United. I mean, last year, this was a win against United. They went 5 and they won their first tournament game, and it was one of those feel-good moments. First tournament game in program history. This year, it wasn't even close. They just went into that game against United, and they said pretty emphatically, we're the better team on the floor right now, and they swept them.
I got a chance to talk with Kendall Brunn, and I mean, there's a lot of great personalities on those Red Devil teams, and I love what Camel as a school is doing over there as well. Got to get a little bit close with that community that past basketball season, and I've tried to keep up with them as well too. They definitely have a great groups of parents, great groups of coaching staffs there too. I mean, from all sports, and Tyler Allen with that volleyball team, no different.
The Red Devils support success, that's for sure. They have gotten behind this volleyball team because they're successful, and they got behind that boys basketball team last year when they were on their run. And Tyler Allen actually brought that up in the last coaches corner we had. Like, I think Campbell got a taste of what it means to support their programs in the basketball season. So it was really quick to be like, okay, let's go and support this volleyball team that is putting together something special.
And putting together something special in that very competitive MVAC Gray conference. I mean, that division was there's a lot of 8-win or more teams in that conference. So for Campbell to walk out double-digit victories too, that's something to say in a very competitive conference highlighted by teams like Garfield, like Crestview.
A game that I'll be watching kind of closely tomorrow on the volleyball side is going to be the Kirtland bracket, the Kirtland side of the bracket.
I want to see
because that's what we see. Like if those two teams don't trip up, then we're gonna see we're gonna see 4 state-ranked teams in the district semifinal in Grand Valley next week. So if Middle Ridge takes care of Wycliffe and if Kirtland takes care of Champion, which hopefully they don't because we want YSN, that would be great. So good luck to Champion. Go shock the world. But if that doesn't happen and we do see Kirtland in that semifinal, it'll be Lakeview, Crestview, who have already locked their place, and then Kirtland and Middle Ridge, who are 4 state-ranked teams in that district semifinal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Saturday, but I don't know how you can't say you're not excited for Crestview, Lakeview. Like, we got that unlocked. Like, that's going to be a fantastic matchup. I can't wait.
The middles in that game are going to be going at it all night. Abby Imps versus Tara Lionel versus Reagan Price.
It's gonna be a crazy matchup, and I mean, we have a chance too. Obviously, we don't have a dog in the fight in that one. I don't really care who comes out. I love both those teams. Have a chance to see both of them this year, but I'm rooting for the Rams. I'd love to see the Rams on the other end of it. Give me whoever, Crestview or Lakeview. I want to see an all YSN district.
And that would mean if that were to happen, then there is a good chance that a YSN team locks their spot into the regional final too. And we talk about that. We want to go into our final little step piece in the tournament action. This message coming to us from Mike Swinehart, and it's good news on the soccer side. In Division III girls soccer, YSN is guaranteed 2 district champions and guaranteed 1 team in the regional championship, the way it has played out. Because in Akron 1, Badger will be at Waterloo and Champion will be at Lakeview. Those are all YSN teams. So we're guaranteed a district champion in that one. And that district championship game is going to be on Thursday at 6 p.m. at Niles. So whoever wins those 2 games will be playing each other on Thursday. They're both Monday. Badger at Waterloo will be at 6. Champion at Lakeview will be at 6. And then winners play at Niles on Thursday. Then we go into the Akron 2 district of Division III girls soccer. It is United at Poland at 6 and Mooney at Springfield at 6 on Monday. So those are obviously 2 YSN schools. So we're guaranteed a district champion there. That district championship game will be on Thursday at 6 at South Range. So then we go into that. So those are 2 district champions. They are lined up against each other in the regional semifinals. So we are guaranteed 1 team, no matter what happens, 1 YSN team will be in the regional finals in Division III girls soccer, with 1 win away from punching their ticket into the state tournament.
I'm definitely keeping my eyes on over the Waterloo girls soccer team.
Waterloo and Poland are the 2 teams that I think are on a collision course right now.
That would be certainly something fun too. And I mean, we've been following too what Kara English has been doing over there. I call her the professor too. I mean, she's like the English teacher. You reach she teaches on both the basketball.
Teach me some English grammar.
Yeah. She teaches for sure on both the basketball court and on the soccer field, and she's been doing something really special over there on that soccer field, and really something special this year as she keeps on closing that gap to the all-time state record. But her, along with like Rose Cott, some other big names on this Vikings team, they've led this Waterloo team to a great season. Poland, always a great program. It feels like year in and year out. I would love an all YSN.
They both have players that have been breaking records this season, with Ariana Daniels breaking some Poland records. Obviously, we know what Kara English is doing on the girls' side for Waterloo in their program and going for a state record. On pace for that, she scored 6 goals in their game. In their last tournament game, 6 out of their 10 goals were scored by Kara English.
Poland girls just know how to break records. You had Jackie Grisdale a few years ago. I mean, like these Poland girls anymore. These programs
they're
just
kind of like For old school movie fans, like Bonnie and Clyde would introduce themselves in that Faye Dunaway movie. We rob banks. Poland pulls up to a car, and their girls are sitting there like, we break records.
Every single one of them. Jackie's just driving the car.
We break records. And then just drive off.
That's awesome.
We're pulling.
Should be an awesome week 10 too on the network, as I mean, a bunch of live games completely free thanks to our sponsors on the network again tonight for week 10.
Yes, and as always, keep an eye on the scoreboard as well throughout the weekend. It'll be live updated for all your tournament games, so we will make sure the final scores are up there. Recaps will be up when we get stats turned in as well. So even though we can't go and cover all those tournament games because of the fees brought down by the OHSAA on streaming tournament games, we'll definitely pour our energy into making sure they get as much coverage as we possibly can give them, both on the website and on our scoreboard. So make sure to check both those out throughout the weekend for recaps and scores on all those tournament games with a lot on the line. Week 10 of football, I hope you enjoy it. Remember, you can check out all those games on ysnlive.com/live. Simply go there, click on the link of the game you want to watch, and it'll take you to the team's page. Scroll down past the sponsors and hit play on the video window. It is the last week where it'll be completely free. Next week, we do have to go into that pay-per-view wall because of the fees that OHSAA puts on streaming playoff games for football. So this is your last chance to get it completely for free. Make sure you take advantage of it in week 10. Next week will be playoffs, which will be pay-per-view, which I believe will be the same as last year. $9.99 will get you access to the entire playlist if we do the same thing we did last year. So more information will come out on that as the week goes on. But this, once again, the last week you can watch it for free. So take advantage of that at ysnlive.com/live. That'll just about do it for today's episode. Casual Sports Podcast is going to be coming up next from 2 to 3 as Alec and the boys will talk about their matchups and the games that they're calling more in depth. And then the Power Hour Super Show. It'll be coming on at 3 to 4 where you'll kind of hear from DJ and Richie and who YSN people think are going to win these games. That's when the company picks are kind of released. So what ways are we leaning? Will be introduced on the Power Hour from 3 to 4. What am I saying? All the games are on at 7. Audible call starts at 6:55 with Mike Ackelson. And then we're going to do things a little bit differently after the Audible call. It'll be the scoreboard show for about a half an hour until 10:30. And then we're going to go into our playoff projection show when we get the points from Joe Itel in. And we can kind of give the lowdown. They won't be official yet. Nothing is official until the OHSAA releases the pairings on Sunday. But Joe Itel gives us a really good idea, like a 99% accuracy on what these matchups are going to be. So we'll go over that on the second half of the scoreboard show / projection show tonight as we wrap up week 10. So make sure to tune into that as well. And tune into all of the stuff on YSN on week 10, Friday and Saturday action for you. Salem West Branch is going to be the only show in town on Saturday. So make sure you tune into that as well on Saturday. This was Running Point brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. Thank you so much for tuning in. Me and Ty will be